What's good, y'all? It's me, Chris, back here with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing the Netflix original limited series titled Self-Made, inspired by the life of Madam C.J. Walker. But before we get into that, I just want to say that it feels weird not to acknowledge this pandemic in some shape or form when I talk to y'all. Like, those of us who haven't even contracted the virus have definitely been impacted by this. So I just want to say I hope that everyone is staying safe as possible and taking the necessary steps that it will take to prevent this virus from spreading. I've heard a lot of people on their social media platforms talk about they've seen other people still participating in social gatherings like house parties or parks at the parks. And honestly, I'm so glad I haven't witnessed that from any of the people that I follow on social media. I can only imagine that being like fucking stressful. And I just want to say that, y'all, we have to do better. Like, I get it that we live in such an individualistic society in America where it's taught us to only care about ourselves and only worry about us and mind our business. But we really have to come together as a collective in America and really think outside of ourselves and think of outsides of how this will be impacted by many others that we will never ever meet. So please, let's do our part that we can, y'all, and do social distancing as much as possible. I honestly even understand going to go visit a friend. You both are being responsible and taking the necessary steps of doing social distancing in your everyday life, and you just find that you just want to go over to that person's house. Fine. I actually understand one on one interaction. Like, it's very lonely for a lot of people during these times. And still, maybe even keeping your 6 feet distance when you go visit them. But to gather at a house and at a park with multiple people, to me, just seems very irresponsible and very insensitive of other people. You got to be mindful that the reason why we're doing the social distancing is that to not stop it, but to slow down the spread of the virus. A lot of people, we don't want to overwhelm the healthcare professionals. A lot of people will be infected with this virus, and we don't want the hospitals to be overwhelmed or at capacity, because that's already the situation in New York. There's tens of thousands of cases that are coming in, and right now they just don't have enough room to facilitate and take care of all these people who have been contracted with COVID-19. And also, it's wearing and tearing on nurses and doctors and receptionists and any healthcare professional in the industry. It is wearing and tearing down on them in so many aspects. So we have to be mindful of those people who are our essential people. We got to make sure that we take care of them, because if we don't have healthcare officials, we don't have anybody to take care of us. We're really gonna be on our own on this shit. I know it feels like for a lot of black people, it already feels like we're on our own in this society that we live in. So we just got to be mindful that the people who are going to be impacted by this the most are poor and black people. That if we don't continue to abide by what health officials are suggesting. I get it. The government fucking sucks, but listen, the government is not really suggesting these things. These are health officials saying, here are the facts. Here's what we can do in the meantime until we get the proper care and need to really tackle this COVID-19 situation. So please just be mindful of others and take the necessary steps that is going to be to prevent this COVID-19 from spreading, because it's really real out here. It's really real. This discussion was supposed to be filmed a few days ago, but y'all, Ozark season 3 came out, and I just been enamored in that. I've been engulfed in Ozark season 3. It is so good. Please watch it. Please check out Ozark season 3. I don't think I will make a video on it, but I would love to discuss it, like on Twitter, or if somebody hits me up on text message. I would love to discuss the show. It's so fucking good. It's so grounded in reality. It's talking about money laundering, and it's just really good. Stars Jason Bateman, Laura Linney. Check that shit out. But that's the reason why I didn't have this Madam CJ Walker video done on time, because I was checking out Ozark season 3. So let's dive into Self-Made. Self-Made is a limited series on Netflix. It's 4 episodes. It's starring Octavia Spencer, Tiffany Haddish, and Blair Underwood. It is directed by Casey Lemons, who directed the recent movie Harriet and also directed a classic Eve's Bayou. It also is produced by Octavia Spencer and LeBron James. There's been a lot of controversy around this series, in which the creative liberties that the filmmakers filmmakers took. This miniseries is inspired by the life of Madam C.J. Walker. This isn't the first time that we've seen film projects use the title inspired by. It's very common for Hollywood to fill in the gaps and make shit up. We understand that not every single conversation and incident has been documented, and that there has to be some type of conflict because people want to be entertained. So that's fair, but at what limit is acceptable? Like, to what extent are we willing to revision history for entertainment? Lots of us know basic information about Madam C.J. Walker. You would assume some keywords to be associated with her would be black woman, hot comb, first female millionaire, and very prominent in the hair industry. This is the first time that Madam C.J. Walker's story has been adapted to a film, and with that, there's a certain level of responsibility to actually tell her story because of the importance that it holds, and because this is the first time that we're being introduced to other people that are integral to her story, such as her daughter, her husband, and her colleagues. Having done some light research on Madam C.J. Walker, I read a few articles, I watched a few videos. There's like loads of discrepancies and like straight up lies that have been added to this film project, including that Madam C.J. Walker may have not actually been the first female millionaire. And so I just want to focus on these two main points of fallacy that stood out to me the most. The first main fallacy that I want to focus on is this hyper-contrived rivalry that ensued between Madam C.J. Walker and the character Addie Monroe, which is based off of a real-life woman in the name of Annie Malone. Addie Malone is played by this wonderful actress named Carmen Ejogo. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing her last name. She's a wonderful actress. She starred in The Purge and also the remake of Sparkle starring Whitney Houston. She really needs to get more notoriety with her name. Like, she's in a lot of major projects and she does such a wonderful job. But she did what she could do with this role. But in this film, they position her as like this nemesis of Sarah, and they portray her to be like this colorist, and none of that is true. Sarah was, in the film they said that she was born to a white man. Not true. Annie Malone was born to two former enslaved parents. She was full black. Also, this idea that Annie didn't believe in Sarah and didn't nurture Sarah's like talent. Sarah was actually a salesperson for Annie Malone in real life. Like, Sarah worked for her company before venturing out and starting her own business venture. So they portrayed her in such a manner that she just despised Sarah and had no type of regard and empathy towards her well-being and towards her career aspirations. None of that was true. They used this tool of colorism to really amplify the division between the two and really accentuate the tension that ensued during that time, and it just, to me, feels so unnecessary to make up such a storyline when there was actual real tension and real divide between the two. There was a lot of conversation around the hot comb and whether or not Sarah Breedlove actually did steal Annie Malone's formula. I would have rather focused on that aspect instead of like using colorism to sensationalize an incident for entertainment purposes. It just seems really cheap to me when you had real material to work from. With the whole colorism conversation, to me it just felt really cheap. It seems like that they read stuff off of a Twitter thread and decided to insert it into the story. I always feel like time and time again with colorism conversations and entertainment, it feels like so elementary in the ways that they bring it up, like as if like children are discussing it, when we know that colorism, especially right now, had manifested itself in so many covert manners that, you know, hitting us over with a hammer, hitting us over the head and the head time and time again with this colorism conversation, to me just feels so cheap. It just feels very juvenile. It feels so contrived. We don't have to misrepresent and tear down Annie Malone's legacy to build up Madam C.J. Walker's legacy. A lot of times in the black community, we don't want to see the less than good aspects from our black heroes. And honestly, Madam C.J. Walker was a little shady, and I think that it would have done us some justice to see her depicted as a multifaceted and complex human being, as all of us are, because some of us don't do such nice things. It's this really weird obsession to want to erase people's missteps, to only see them in a good manner, to be used as a form of inspiration, and we saw that exhibited here. The second fallacy that I want to talk about is that A'Lelia Walker was never gay. She never had any lesbian partners. She never had any curiosity towards women. That was all made up for a plot in this series. Now, what A'Lelia Walker was known for was being in support of the queer community. In New York, she would throw these gatherings where lots of queer people would come together and have this space of safety and happiness and being able to express themselves as individuals and express themselves freely as who they are. Now, I think there's also been talk of like there may have been sexual activities at these queer parties. Fair, but did A'Lelia Walker ever participate in it? No. She was just an ally that was in support of Black queer people. This is just queer baiting 101. People love to pander to us. We're living in a time where there's such a desire for queer people to be seen, visible in the media. And we know that queer people have existed throughout the time of history. So, of course, it would have been amazing to see what Black queer people lived their lives as in the 1900s. But we don't have to make shit up. We can actually do our history and explore those lives of Black people who were queer, who lived in those times, and tell those stories in the meantime. I would rather us actually explore and look for the queer people who have existed throughout the times of history than to sell us a cheap storyline that is like giving us crumbs, quite frankly. I would have loved to seen a straight woman in support of the queer community during the 1900s. I would have loved to seen what a straight ally had looked like. And also, we know that a lot of straight people are going to be watching this to see what it looks like for you now and for you then to be in support of us and to create and cultivate these spaces for us to exist freely. I would have loved to seen that. So let's just not lie in the meantime, please. All these creative liberties taken in this project to me just seem very self-serving. Like, I get it. Octavia Spencer is an Oscar-winning actress. She won for The Help years ago in a supporting role where she did a phenomenal job in that. And she wants us to, showcase her talent and show that she's a viable, commodifiable lead talent. And that's fair. But at what extent are you willing to compromise someone's story and importance and what it means to Black people to then gain success in your career? It would have been lovely to have made a project if you wanted to talk about colorism and homophobia in the 1920s. We could have gotten that. That would have been really freaking cool to have seen what colorism and homophobia and how queer people exist and how Black women had to exist in such of that time. We could have gotten that project instead and still done Madam C.J. Walker's project just. There's so many compelling and interesting actual events that took place in Madam C.J. Walker's life that I just don't know why we couldn't have gotten those stories told. But anywho, let's talk about the series real quick. The first thing I just want to say is that I loved the opening montage. I know this is going to sound cliche to say, and maybe I'll come up with something more original next time, but at that time of me viewing the montage, it really did set the tone of the series. I love the different Black hairstyles and Octavia Spencer doing the voiceover at the beginning. I was hyped. I was juiced as to what's to come. I knew a little bit about Madam C.J. Walker going into this, and I was excited to see what type of exploration we were going to be taking in this limited series. And I love the overall tone of exploring female entrepreneurship. I don't think we see that enough, especially during a time during the 1900s. But otherwise, y'all, the movie was giving me very Lifetime, Super Size Me Lifetime, just a step up from Lifetime movies. It was not cinematic enough. It was not grand enough. We're talking about Madam C.J. Walker, a pioneer in the hair industry, and we didn't get that. To me, an example of a really good story being told in a hyper cinematic manner was Ray. Ray was done beautifully. very much engaging and had you intrigued and to see what was this story about. And we could have gotten that. We really could have gotten that. I did not like a lot of the music choices that they used in this series. They used a lot of contemporary music, and I just feel kind of weird about that. About like the contemporary music in contrast to the period piece that's being told. For me personally, that's a no. I don't really like it, and I think, like I said, even the music choices that they did choose were not that great. One more thing before we get into the performances, I was really taken aback at how they decided to depict Sarah's hair loss. It was feeling very like Tyler Perry vibes to me. I'm not sure if we were supposed to empathize with her or if we were supposed to laugh at her. It was giving me very cartoonish vibes as someone who has alopecia, and thankfully it's a very, very mild case. It's pretty much non-existent at this point. I was just taken aback about the creative choice and how they depicted Sarah's hair loss. It was really throwing me off. Like I said, I was like, is this feels cartoonish to me? And she had a cry with it. I don't know. I did a nervous laugh, but I don't think you're supposed to laugh at someone who is losing their hair loss and having that identity crisis. That was weird to me. But as far as Octavia goes, Octavia Spencer performance was lovely, very captivating and engaging to me. I think she has some very piercing, engaging eyes. I just find that I can't take myself off the screen when I look at her. I've always loved Octavia Spencer as a talent. I was aware of who she was way before The Help. I think one of the first major projects that I have seen her in was in Coach Carter. She played a mom as a very small role in that scene opposite Samuel L. Jackson, and I said, damn, that's a movie star. And look where she's going. She's won an Oscar and lead roles in miniseries on Netflix, doing her damn thing, producing a lot of things. I love Octavia Spencer as a talent. Like I said, she did what she could do with this role, and she did have a creative hand in this, so I will hold her responsible, as well as Casey Lemons and LeBron James and anyone else who took the creative liberties and just totally manipulating her story. Blair Underwood was in this project. That nigga is so goddamn fine. He is so fine. I do have this one question proposal. Like, is Blair Underwood an actual good actor, or is he just hella fine? I'm starting to feel like he's good enough. Like, I feel like Blair Underwood never takes you out of the movie, the plotline, the story that's going on, that's taking place. But am I ever like compelled by his performance? Am I ever moved when I see Blair Underwood on screen? Like, nah, to me he just does enough not to disrupt what is going on in the story. And I also feel like he's hella fine. So I think a lot of people like stand. That's me though. I don't think Blair Underwood is a bad actor. That's why I want to clarify. But do I think he's as good as people make him to seem? I don't know. I just feel like he's hella fine. And then the last performance I want to talk about is Tiffany Haddish. She tried. You could tell Tiffany Haddish tried so hard with this role. You could tell that she was really trying. But sometimes trying isn't good enough. Sometimes trying is not good enough. Like, I think for her to start moving into dramatic roles, that she should try the more like melancholy drama comedy, maybe more like a buddy cop action movie where she can do a little bit of dramatic and action and comedy, use her body. She's like a Raven Simone, if you will, like really good with like physical comedy, being expressive. I think that would be better for Tiffany Haddish. I also want to say that like I'm not the biggest Tiffany Haddish fan. I think she does one thing like okay, and I think that she's trying to branch out of doing that one thing okay, but it's just not working. Like, she took me out of the movie so many times. I didn't find that the mannerisms in which she was acting, her reactions, her tone felt of that time of the 1900s. It's very much like 2020. Like, I don't think Tiffany Haddish is a transformative like character actress, unfortunately. And it sucks. I'm sure that they just used her as a name in this project, and I hope that she gets more opportunities to be able to flex her range in acting. But in this role, it just wasn't it. Overall, this project was just a letdown. It was very boring. It was very much lackluster. Just very disappointing in the discrepancies and the lies in which this story told. I just feel like if you're gonna have a desire to create a project on a real person, you should tell it accurately, especially on the first time out. Someone like Martin Luther King, you can reimagine his story because he's had many opportunities to have his story been told. How many Martin Luther King movies are there? There's at least 3 that I could think of off the top of my head. We haven't had that opportunity with Madam C.J. Walker yet, and for her to hold such an importance in our community, I think that we have a responsibility to tell her story accurately, so that way we can learn our history as such. Like, let's reimagine something else. Like, if you want to tell a story that has these aspects, get your pen and paper and get to writing. That's all my thoughts on this Madam C.J. Walker series. Did y'all watch? Did y'all enjoy? What do y'all think about the discrepancies and lies? What do y'all think about all the performances? If there's another performance that I didn't talk about, or another aspect of this Madam C.J. Walker series, or the tension between Annie Malone and Madam C.J. Walker, please leave it in the comments below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the krisbeknowin family if you want to be part of us. And I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!